Hayley had spent weeks meticulously weaving a web of deception, crafting the perfect illusion of a pregnant woman basking in maternal glow, preparing to build the dream of a family with Bill. She appeared tired just enough to be believable, mentioned morning sickness with carefully measured frequency, placed her hand on her stomach like it was instinct. But behind every calculated detail was a coldly orchestrated lie. She wasn't pregnant. She could never be pregnant. And that truth, inevitable and corrosive, was about to surface. The first cracks began when Madison overheard a late-night phone call. Hayley whispering as if performing some secret rite, her voice laced with cryptic phrases like, "Send the next batch of images, and make sure the doctor signs it the same way again." To anyone else it might have seemed harmless. But to Madison, who had seen how Hayley clung to Bill with growing desperation, it was a signal. She began digging, not out of jealousy but from an instinct that something fundamental was off. She copied Hayley's ultrasound photos, cross-checked the clinic stamp with public medical databases, and the first piece shattered. The images weren't Hayley's. They belonged to another patient. Madison dug deeper. She visited the same clinic under a false pretense, searching through misfiled documents until she found Hayley's real medical record. A confidential file stating permanent infertility, due to uterine complications from years ago. It was no longer a suspicion. It was fact. A truth buried and replaced with illusion so Hayley could secure her place in Bill's life, in his heart, in his legacy. Madison knew what that truth would do to Bill. He had placed everything, hope, love, purpose, into this child that would never exist. She considered silence, letting Hayley unravel on her own. But when she looked at Bill, saw how deeply he had thrown himself into this fantasy of fatherhood, she couldn't let it continue. The confrontation wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was final. In his office, with the documents laid out before him, Bill read everything in silence, his face darkening with every passing line. Then he picked up the phone and began dismantling the lie. He ordered full access to every record, every appointment, every signature Hayley had faked. He wanted her gone, from his house, his life, his future. Meanwhile, Hayley sensed something was wrong. Her calls went unanswered, her texts unread. Panic crept into her carefully managed world. The woman she had paid to carry the baby went silent. The clinic became suspicious, locking down her access, raising questions she had no answers for. The trap she had set now closed in on her. What had begun as a calculated move to secure a future now threatened to become her public downfall. The whispers turned into stares. Invitations ceased. Neighbors who once smiled now looked away. But the worst punishment was Bill's silence. No confrontación. No acusaciones. Just absence. And in that absence, Hayley began to unravel. She had thought she could outtweet biology, outmaneuver reality, but she had underestimated the power of truth. Back at the hospital, Madison watched as Hayley sat alone in the hallway, hands clenched, eyes hollow, holding on to the last shred of a dream that had never been real. To some, it looked like justice. To Madison, it was a warning, a chilling glimpse into how far desperation could drive someone. The story didn't end in triumph. There were no winners. Only wreckage. A man who believed he was about to become a father, now forced to accept a future without Hayley, without the child, with only the scar of betrayal. And that scar, though quiet, would never fade. It would linger as a reminder of how easily love can be weaponized, how thin the line is between hope and delusion. Sometimes a single lie, a forged ultrasound, a whispered promise, a desperate scheme, was all it took to reduce everything to ash. And from that ash, nothing would rise. To her, this game was only just beginning you in the future. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. TV soap news and spoilers. For more updates on Beyond the Gates.